have Mr. Altaf Bukhari. He's the chief of Jammu and Kashmir's Apni Party. This party emerged soon after the government of India took a major decision, a historic decision on August 5th, 2019, when it nullified Article 370 and 35A. Today we would be talking to Mr. Bukhari about the politics of Jammu and Kashmir that has emerged in the last 3-4 years. But for that, we must welcome him at Reason, the New Indians platform, where we get to the reasons of the issues that concern you. Welcome, Mr. Bukhari.
Good morning.
Let me begin by asking a very simple question. You've been seen as somebody who was not a conventional politician. You came from a background which had nothing to do with politics. You were a businessman, you are one of the richest businessmen in Kashmir. But then you took a plunge around 20 years ago in J&K politics. What was the motivation for you to join politics?
I have been associated with politicians for almost 3 decades, but only as a hobby, not as a profession of politics. I would see my friends who were in politics. They used to be surrounded by people, and I would wonder, what do these people get from these politicians? And at the end of the day, I would see small things for which people would go to these politicians, and that enticed me to this, that this is a platform where you can serve people. People have very basic needs. They need a water connection, they need an electric pole, they need a drain. So that was my basic interest which took me to politics.
But then a lot of people say that you were also instrumental in overthrowing Farooq Abdullah in 1984 when he was dismissed by the center.
I want to put the record straight that way also. I was 23 when Dr. Farooq Abdullah was overthrown. I think a young man at 23 gets fascinated if somebody tells you, we are throwing out a chief minister, an elected chief minister. I wanted to understand, how can an elected chief minister be thrown out in a democracy? I think that is the only interest I took in it. I had few friends whom I knew because they had just become the members of the Legislative Assembly. And because we were in business, otherwise you are known to your elected representatives. I saw what is the murkier part of politics. 83 gave me an insight into the murkiest things that can be done in politics.
What happened? How did you become instrumental?
I was instrumental in as much as, one, they all assembled in my house. Few of them were introduced by me to this group, because the family was associated with, my family was associated with late Mufti Muhammad Saeed. That is how I got involved with this.
So
my father did not know about it.
So was it a conspiracy by Mufti to overthrow Farooq?
It was a conspiracy by New Delhi.
Why did they want to overthrow Farooq?
Honestly, I told you, at that age, I did not understand what it was.
But later you joined politics. What was your understanding
But
about it?
I did not join politics for 25 years after that. 25 years after that, because
So
I
now,
saw
in
how
retrospect-
murkier it was. Just within whiff, it went.
But in retrospect.
In retrospect, it was not good.
No, but
It was not
why
good
do
for
you
Jammu and
think,
Kashmir.
why do you
It was not good for Jammu and Kashmir. I think partly 84 to be responsible for emergence of militancy.
Really? Are you saying that
Yes,
just
I-
because
No.
a government was dismissed?
No,
and
no,
that,
I would tell you, that led Farooq to the double Farooq and Rajiv Accord.
Mm-hmm.
And that accord gave rise to the 87 elections.
So you're really saying that 87 elections, which has been tainted as a rigged election, became the reason for terrorism in Kashmir?
Yes, that became the ignition point. That became the ignition point. There have been always a percentage of population who did not accept an accession to India. It has been always. You can say 5%, 7%, 10%, anything, anywhere, and fair enough. People have a right. But the majority takes a decision. The majority was for the accession, which went with Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah's decision. But there was a section which was, even in 47, which was there till 87. And that section that time wanted to participate. They participated in 87 elections under a banner of Muslim United Front. Elections of 87 were rigged to an extent where we find a Salahuddin is born, a man known as Pir Sahib becomes Sayyid Salahuddin because he fought the election. He took the oath on Indian constitution, and all of a sudden we find him.
But then let me ask you this. JKLF was born way before this.
I said already there was a percentage
Yes.
of people. You could say 5%, 7%, 10%. And I think JKLF represented that sentiment all through. Pakistanis did not encourage them. They wanted independence. So it was a big thing. But in 87 elections gave them a common platform.
But
to
let me
unite.
interrupt you here. Sheikh Abdullah was sent to jail in 1953 because of the Kashmir conspiracy case. And the case was exactly this, that soon after J&K became an legal integral part of India, Sheikh was hobnobbing with foreigners and was looking for another kind of arrangement for Jammu and Kashmir. And while he was in jail, we saw National Conference emerging or transforming itself as Plebiscite Front. So the seeds of separatism that you are referring to, which we saw through after rigging of elections, the seeds were sown in 1950s. Won't you agree with that?
Yes, I have no columns in accepting that. It is true. It is true. But this is also a fact. The same government of India which put him in jail in 1953 brought him back in 1975 as head of a government which was controlled by Congress. He did not fight an election. He did not go through anything. So these are two
So are you
sides of
saying
the
that-
coin. Two sides of the coin.
So are you saying that Sheikh Abdullah was actually imposed and installed as a representative of New Delhi in Kashmir?
100%. If you take go back to history, in 1947 there were no elections. Then also he was imposed by Delhi, and in 1975 also. Delhi has been always instrumental in whatever has happened in Kashmir.
So he was not really a popular leader.
No, he was a popular. I don't doubt his popularity, but when you talk of a democracy, India is a democratic country. Everybody came through an election. 1947, no elections. He was handed over the position in Jammu and Kashmir. J&K was handed over to him. 1975, there is a different assembly constituted, headed by Mir Qasim. He steps down and Sheikh Saab takes over. So it is Delhi, really Delhi, which has made people sit on the throne or come down from the throne.
What should have Delhi done?
Like rest of the country, Delhi should have had elections in 47, Jammu and Kashmir also, have elected representative government. And in 75, the accord was for bringing in what they say accord of 75. The assembly should have been dissolved, new elections held, and whoever would have come. I also believe Sheikh would have returned with a majority, which he did in 77. So at least we would talk of democracy and show to our neighbors, look, everything what happens in our country is through democratic means.
Now let me ask you about Jammu and Kashmir Apni Party. Why did you choose the timing, which was essentially after the nullification of Article 370 and 35A?
August 5, 2019. We may like it or we may not like it. Most of us were disillusioned the way it was done. I think nobody doubts it. The government of India did not have the powers to do it, because after all it was they who had given it in 1949, and then it is they who removed it. The way it was done, it could have been done in a better way. The state was downgraded. It is a 200-year-old state. No state in this country has been downgraded. All states have been upgraded. So we were all under shock. All through in these years, right from 47, we all believe that Article 370 is the bridge between India and Jammu and Kashmir. I confess it today, it was only an illusion created by the politician. 35A we thought is a protection for our lands, jobs, heritage, culture. It had some bad things, I do agree. Like a girl when once married would lose her status in Jammu and Kashmir if she was married to an outsider. Probably it was good when Maharaja had done it. He had done it because at that time the Punjabis would come and marry Kashmiri girls. He did not want the Kashmiri culture or the Dogri culture because it was applicable at both the places. So it was a protection given by him. Maybe in those times it was good. But it did not, in the present day democratic setup, it did not go well. Because women have the equal rights as even in Islam, because Kashmir is majority Islam, it does not go even as per the religion. So there were ambiguities. I don't say there were not ambiguities. If politicians had removed these ambiguities, probably government of India would have to think twice. But since there were ambiguities, the reason was good enough. Having said so, August 5, even today, is considered as a black day because we do not subscribe the way it was done. It could have been done by a dialogue, it could have been done otherwise.
As far as I remember in my own lifetime, the BJP manifesto always talked about Article 370. And we grew up in J&K hearing about at least two major political parties debating this issue for the last, ever since BJP came into existence. So the dialogue was happening. So why do you keep saying that there was no dialogue?
With whom was the dialogue happening?
A dialogue was happening even in J&K because I remember in every assembly elections, whether BJP came to power or not, but BJP was contesting.
It was always in their agenda. I never disputed.
Yes.
And they fulfilled their agenda. That is their part of it.
But since we are a democracy, you have to give it to people.
Yes,
That's dialogue.
I'll come back. The parties who were ruling Jammu and Kashmir had made people believe that this is a permanent clause in the Constitution of India, and once it is gone, a new arrangement has to come in, and most of them would tell people it is over. Then the association with India is over. August 5, all of a sudden it happens. 4 days before that, when tourists were asked to leave and others were asked to leave, there was a panic. I think all politicians were either put in house arrest or some were moved to hotels, some were moved to guest houses, some were moved to huts. For first few days, there was no communication even with your neighbors. The best thing which happened on this day, it is a historical day for us mainly. Nobody died. I give the credit to people of Jammu and Kashmir as well as the people who handled this, that is the security forces. Because even for a small thing, people would die here.
So you're giving credit to Modi government for this?
Yes, why not? Why not? If I am saying they took away our 370, I have to give them this credit also. We have to be honest, at least honest to ourselves.
But many people say that you are the B team of BJP in Jammu and Kashmir because your party came into existence after this historic decision. You have been also giving credit to the Modi government for the peaceful atmosphere that prevailed in Kashmir after that decision. So a lot of people seem to think that you have some backdoor arrangement with the BJP.
Look, one cannot be a sycophant. You have to accept realities. The reality is much has changed after August 5, 2019. Should we have left our people in the same state of shock? There was a shock. Shops were closed, businesses were closed, tourism was zero. Fruit was at its ripening stage. It had to be transported. There were a number of people who were arrested, youngsters, old, shifted out to different jails. I remember, which became an ignition for me to think. 2 young women came to my house. They wanted to meet. And I asked them, what is that they want to meet me for? They said their father has been taken away on the 5th of August. Where is he? They said, we don't know, but he has been shifted somewhere outside the state. I said, did you try to find out? Did you go and meet him? They said, we could hardly after 45 days collect money to come and reach up to you. They were from a North Kashmir village. That came as a blow to me. I said, Altaf Bukhari, you will have to see how you can help people now at this stage. I visited Delhi after a few days. There few friends met me. They said, Bhai sahab, ghar to jal gaya. Kya naya ghar nahi bana ho? It gave me an idea that if these politicians who have been put behind, who have ruled us, basically Abdullahs and the Muftis, if they are released, maybe now they can help people. This is the time they need politicians. Started with that. So we slowly, I came back, then few more friends were released, we met, we thought of getting everybody released first and then sit amongst ourselves and chart a course of action that how do we now henceforth tell people the truth. Our eyes were on the leaders, obviously, the Abdullahs and the Muftis. We were not the torch bearers, they have been the torch bearers. Whatever has happened in 72 years has happened because of them.
But then you were a very important minister in both Mufti Muhammad Saeed's government as well as Mehbooba Mufti's government.
Yes, true.
There were also allegations against you. Mehbooba Mufti, in fact, thought that you were a conspirator against her, against her government. You were dropped
That's
as
true.
a minister, but then inducted again. So, why wouldn't you share the responsibility as well? Because you were part of the government.
I would have definitely loved to take the responsibility of anything what they did vis-a-vis telling people lies of about 370 and 35A. But when I joined, I actually joined politics and for the first election in 2014. 2015, when the elections results were out and the accord with BJP was to be done, I was the first one to be called and asked by Mufti Sahab, what should we do? He said, we are short of the majority and people have given a mandate. Jammu has given a mandate for BJP and we have, Kashmir has given a mandate for us. My answer to him was, Mufti Sahab, let us sit in a position. Because we have fought an election by asking people, give us votes, we will keep BJP away. Something more transpired between him and me. Mehbooba ji was the third person sitting in the room. I begged of him, don't do such a political harakari because the sentiment of people will be against us. He was the leader, he was the supreme leader. He listened to me and went upstairs. Me and Mehbooba ji kept on sitting and she said, yes, you are right, probably we should not. And for 1 month, Mufti Sahab did not speak to me. Mehbooba ji picked up the threads after a month. I think I still remember. She hosted me for a sumptuous Gadapat and said, father and son don't get angry with each other. So you should meet Mufti Sahab. Next day, me and Mehbooba ji flew to Jammu. I met Mufti Sahab. Mufti Sahab in his typical fashion told me, do you think I will deceive my people? He told me many things which he had in his mind, why he was aligning with BJP. And my answer was, sir, then speak. Tomorrow is Mehbooba ji's re-election as president. Speak there and you can take out the speech. It is in the archives, it is on the record. He spoke the same language, joined the government. So I do not say that I did not put forward my point of view, but then in a party leadership,
Since they were the
leadership,
leaders.
I think most of my colleagues, they had agreed they wanted to be in the government.
Now, let me ask you another question. PDP, when it came into existence, it came with a very clear manifesto. It had a vision about Jammu and Kashmir. It wanted self-rule. It was not really very different from National Conference, if you really think about it. If National Conference was for greater autonomy, Mufti was for self-rule. And in fact, there was a time when he was talking about change of currency. He was talking about many other things. Why did you join the PDP? Did you really believe all of this?
Look, I'll tell you very honestly. I think Mufti Sahab was a politician par excellence. A novice like me had no reason not to believe. He had remained the Home Minister of India. Has the distinction of having fought the Sheikh family all through his life. I see today even a new history being created when Sheikh family and Mufti family are on the same stage. PAG. So, for a novice like me, not to believe Mufti Sahab was almost impossible. I believed and there were indications the Congress government supported him in that self-rule theory and everything. Because I remember when the Muzaffarabad road was opened, there were big hoardings set up, so many kilometers Muzaffarabad and all those things. You would think that something is behind the curtain between Delhi and Mufti Sahab, because everything is falling in place as per what he is speaking to us.
So he was Delhi's man.
There is no doubt. I don't think anybody can doubt.
A lot of people say that he was an Indian intelligence man. Do you agree with that?
I do not really know that because that is something which is not conceivable but not impossible. But I do not have much knowledge.
So you did not think that National Conference has the same kind of support that Muftis had, because National Conference, you yourself said, Sheikh was imposed, he was installed, then his son came, he had an accord with the Congress party as well. So Congress at one point was supporting National Conference and Congress was later supporting the Muftis.
Muftis, yes.
So they both were essentially Delhi's people.
There is no doubt on it. In fact, any government in Delhi, I would not blame only the Congress government, any government in Delhi, they were either choosing between muftis or sheikhs. Both the families represented Delhi in
So
Kashmir.
why did you choose muftis over Abdullahs?
I choose muftis over Abdullahs because of the family relations we had with the muftis. My father had relations with Mufti Saab for long, since 73. So because of that, it's not, I would not say on an ideological plank. Ideological plank was nothing. They both did swear by the Constitution of India. Both did swear by the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. Both said those things which were really impossible.
So it never occurred to you while being in the government that PDP was telling a lie to people of Kashmir, that Article 370 can never be touched, nobody can ever nullify it, abrogate.
I'll be honest, even I believed it can never be nullified. Everybody in Kashmir believed it can never be.
But then the evidence on the ground, for example, Article 370's teeth had over the time eroded, its power had gone. Lot of central laws had been extended through different regimes, through different governments. It was essentially under Nehru and Indira that 370 had lost most of its power. So why
the
did
last
you think?
nail in the coffin, in fact, was the 75 Accord.
Yes.
I do not say that. But it said, like everybody knows that death is imminent, but you don't believe you are going to die. Though we knew BJP had it in its agenda, and they had also signed an accord with Mufti Saab on the same, that we will postpone it. We will not implement our part of that, our manifesto. So I said, even a man like me, who was in the government, did not believe that it is going to be.
When the Article 370 and 35A were nullified, most of the mainstream politicians were detained. They were house arrested. Many of them were ranting against Government of India even before the historic decision was taken. They were threatening violence. They were threatening that nobody is going to pick up the Indian flag in Kashmir. They were saying that nobody is going to raise slogans in favor of India. But there was one man who, after the decision was taken, he was speaking a different language, and that was you.
I would like to correct you. This man did not use this language before the article was nullified. I did not become a part of the all-party meetings. I did not subscribe to this idea that there would be nobody picking up the.
Why? That is the reason Mehbooba Mufti suspected you.
No,
that
you're
not being with them.
I will tell you. I had been already expelled from PDP in January 2019, and it was simply on this that there was a meeting on December 12th. I suggested that there should be a change in the leadership. I told Mehbooba ji that you had failed as chief minister because 2016 200 children were killed. It was an administrative failure. It was not a law and order failure. It was an administrative failure. The way
So it was her responsibility.
yes, she was the chief minister. She was the home minister, and I told her that since June 18, 2018, since you lost the government, up till that day, she had lost 9 MLAs, including 4 or 5 ministers. I told her, you have failed as a party leader also. Why not step down in the interest of party and have somebody else as the party president? I told her, there is anger against PDP within people, but there is hatred against you as a leader. It's better you step down, we'll go back.
What did she say?
In a typical fashion, like what every leader does. She was the last speaker. She said, somebody who wants to leave can leave, and somebody who wants to stay. And with me, the dialogue continued for a few more days because I was out. We had dialogue. She spoke to, because we were close families also. She spoke to my father and she complained that I was trying to dislodge her. When my father spoke to me, I spoke to her. Either you convince me or I convince you. Or we agree to disagree. We fixed 21st January to meet each other. I came back from abroad on 18th. I was in Jammu on 19th. At 6:30 or 6:45, I got to know that I have been expelled. I did not react. Press asked me. I said everything is not reacted by statements. Let us wait.
What is the difference between your politics and the Gupkar Alliance declaration politics?
My politics is simple and straight. Tell people the truth. Serve people the best. Honestly, precisely, I believe politics of truth should prevail, and we should work as honestly as a politician is expected to.
But then
Their,
the Gupta
their
alliance-
politics is based on lies, total lies, and nothing else. Tomorrow, let PAGD, National Conference, and PDP simply say that Article 370 and 35A can be restored only by Supreme Court, what we say. Because it is in the Supreme Court, it can be only restored by them or the Parliament, where it is not possible that any of the Kashmiri parties can get it swayed. Let them tell these.
And if this-
let them tell that these elections which are going to happen here are only for day-to-day governance and your development. People's voice to be represented. I'll be the first one to follow them because every day they accuse that Kashmir's vote is being divided. Kashmiris are being divided. I throw them a challenge. Be honest. Tell people truth. Elections have nothing to do with Article 317, 35A. Because that is lies. They have fed this for 72 years. Let us not kill our youngsters. They get sentimental, they get emotional. They don't know what is true.
So will you accept the Supreme Court decision, whatever it is?
It has to. Who am I not to accept? But I can tell you, we have a very strong case. And inshallah, God willing, the Supreme Court will restore it.
But
because
suppose-
we
but-
believe in the supremacy of judiciary. And whatever is the decision, we have to accept it. We have to accept it. There is no question that we will not accept it. And I hope Government of India also accepts it because we know Supreme Court is going to restore it.
How do you know? How can you say
Because we have a
that?
strong case.
Well,
We have a strong case.
The government of India may have the...
If they have a better case, look, in the judiciary, every litigant believes up to the last date, I have the strongest case. That is how justice, you believe in a justice system where you know you have the 100% chance. Nobody goes to the court with this belief that I have only 5% chance. And no lawyer tells you that you have only 5% chance.
Now, let me ask you another question. You seem to have escaped the kind of punishment National Conference and PDP got after Article 370 and 35A were nullified. A lot of people say that, you didn't really suffer. You were talking on television, you were meeting people, you were meeting Delhi, and somewhere I'm repeating this question. Does BJP really help you behind the scenes?
I'll tell you two things. First, all of us, 90% of us were in our own houses, put under house arrest. 90% of us. When I say 10% of us were moved out to one hotel and the two big leaders were moved to guest houses. 45 days, I did not have any connection with anybody except I think 17th, 18th day because Eid had fallen after that. Few people started coming means from the constituency because I live in Lal Chowk. So policemen would first find out if it is not a press wala. Then they would say, if you have some work, you can meet. I would meet in the lawn and ask them what was their problem. So somewhere a problem was that there no ration or these small problems, but there was no telephone. I could not help, but people would come and if I had something to give, I could give. So after 45 days, I applied for permission to go to Delhi. I think 4 or 5 days it took it. And they asked me why I wanted to go. And I said, because I had a March in geography, I went. And I was honest also that I want to meet my grandchildren. I think whosoever applied got permission to go. I don't say that I was the only one singled out. Since I have business throughout the country, I had friends also in different parties. And how can I deny being a minister for 3.5 years in that government and one of the important ministers also, as you yourself said, and I believe one of the doers also. It was not that I did not know the Home Minister. It is not that I did not know the National Security Advisor. It's not that I can deny that I did not know the Prime Minister. I still remember when I was taking oath, Mufti Saab introduced me that he's a businessman. And when the Prime Minister hugged me, he told me, like you do, work in your business and make it excel your ministry also, work for the people also. And I kept his word. He must have been always proud of it, that there was a man whom he advised that he should work like this, and I exactly worked like that.
Many of the people in Kashmir who were in business, who were in politics, were also, some of them were arrested for terror funding. Your own brother was
Summoned.
accused of terror funding.
Yes.
And what is the connection? Why are there allegations against you?
I can I can tell you very honestly. You asked a very relevant question. We have family friends, and their son has some problems with government of India. He is accused of being in activities which are prejudicial to the state.
So he was involved in terror activities.
Yes, he is living outside. His daughter was getting married here. He was not here. You being a Kashmiri, what are our traditions? When somebody's daughter gets married, you throw a party. Even in Delhi, you throw a party. They were getting married in Taj Vimanta. My brother hosted one of the lunches for that family. This girl and they knew the bride and the groom. My 4 sisters got married. Kashmir has a tradition we used to use carpets. In all these 4 marriages, this boy's father would send us the carpets. So how can you just ignore a daughter getting married here in Kashmir openly? It is not hush-hush manner in one of the.
So you're
best
saying
hotels.
it's just guilt by association?
Yes, and I would like to put it on record. I don't deny this. I know the family. We know the family, but just knowing the family does not mean you contribute to their.
So you're saying your family has nothing to do with terror funding?
My brother was called and asked this question that you have paid. Yes, we have paid by check. We have picked up the bill. It has been reflected in my expenses. It's reflected in my account statements. It's reflected in the expense statements. Associations, I will tell you today, my father and Professor Ghani were class fellows. I call him Uncle J today also. So you can't just wish away that no, you don't have relationships. Everybody. I come from Sopore. Gilani Saab came from Sopore. He lived in my grandmother's house in Sopore. So we knew it. That Lone Saab came from that area. We are all, and I tell you, this question was asked even from me in 1996 or 97. There was an income tax or somebody she was a chief commissioner or something, and she asked me, do you know this man, this man, this man, this man? Because I said, I know everybody, all of them. They were members of assembly. Gilani Saab was a member of assembly. Lone Saab was a member of assembly. Professor Saab, till date, I believe he is the best professor. Any student would love to chat with him, read with him, he being their teacher, because he was such a progressive man at that time when nobody would be so open and progressive. She was surprised me telling yes to everything, because I knew them all. I had dealt them all in the assembly, in the same assembly which threw up GM Shah as the chief minister.
Now, you came from Sopore and you came from a very poor family.
I came from Uri.
You actually justify the proverbial saying that rags to riches story.
Sure.
How did you build this huge empire in Kashmir?
We came from a village which is known as Bijahama. This is almost 2 minutes crows fly to Pakistan and 2 hours by foot. We used to foot almost 6 to 7 kilometers to reach up to it was a thatched roof. So beautiful. The birds would go chirping in the morning, 4 a.m. My father was the first matriculate. He left Uri in 1958. That was the time when orchards had started becoming an industry. Till then, apples were always grown in Kashmir. But as an industry, he was the first. We bought some land in Ladura, which is in between Sopore and Baramulla. He first started planting nurseries. His nursery was one of the biggest nurseries. And when you start some business and the industry takes up, you also grow with the system. Then he started export of walnut stumps.
What years are we talking about?
This is 50s.
So this happened under Sheikh Abdullah's time, or
No,
was it
this
later?
was Bakshi's. It started in Bakshi's time. He was chosen as one of the distributors for these chemicals. We started as distributors. Then I took the business forward. I started manufacturing. I went out of Kashmir in 87. Punjab, Haryana, Himachal and other states. Slowly. Then our own manufacturing throughout the country. And that is how we kept on going. But I returned back to Kashmir. And incidentally, Farooq Sahu was instrumental in bringing me back in 97. Which till date is the only fruit processing plant in private sector, apple processing plant. I crush 400 tons of apples. We make apple concentrate, export it, and also to all domestic consumers. Then I have the distinction of having brought CA store technology to this country as a whole. My children came back, they went into a different urban mobility. They went into gondolas tied up with the French. We set up the first private sector gondola in Patnitop on a boot basis, spent 175 crore rupees. Then they bagged in Dehradun and others. So I can tell you, we have done businesses which people will think almost untouchable.
What is your vision of Jammu and Kashmir post 370?
My vision for Jammu and Kashmir is transforms into a peaceful, developed society where everybody has equal rights, where we all have same rights which rest of the people in this country have, where our children are not misled to the graves, to their emotions. I would like to harness their capabilities for them to become entrepreneurs, not only employees. They become employers, not only the employees. Because a notion has been cultivated since 47. Whenever there has been dissent, 20,000 jobs, 50,000 jobs, that is not the solution. We cannot absorb everybody in the government jobs. We'll have to side by side grow an industry which we have potential. We have lot of raw materials. Our industry should mainly be based on those raw materials. These assets which we have in terms of talent pool, we have 12 lakh graduates and postgraduates. So we try to convert at least 2 lakh out of them as tomorrow's entrepreneurs. Even if they employ 8 to 10% each of them, that is where we are done.
Since 2019, we have had DDC elections, we have had municipal elections here in Jammu and Kashmir. What is the status of politics? Because there is no assembly, there is no representatives of people in any democratic institution.
I'll tell you honestly, this step of 2020 DDC elections was a very important milestone step. Unfortunately, those people were never empowered. I think I will give credit to the Prime Minister and the leadership of this country for having undertaken those elections. His vision probably was to empower at the lowest level people. But they have not been. They have not been empowered. I do not know. I would not shy to blame. Maybe the bureaucracy did not empower them the way they should have been empowered. But it could also be because it's an evolving system. Because first time it was done, nobody is sure what are the powers to be given unless you empower the common man here with the same rights which he has in rest of the country. He should have the right to elect a government. He should have right to throw out the government. He should feel that he is the strongest pillar in the whole process of governance. Unfortunately, it is missing in Jammu and Kashmir. Still,
is Jammu and Kashmir ready for elections?
I think this is the most crucial time when people today are asking for elections. I have seen at least from after 87 first time when people are asking for elections. They are not asking bring him, bring who. They are not still expressing their mind whom they want to vote for, but they want elections because they find a disconnect between the administration and themselves.
What is your opinion of the Delimitation Commission recommendations?
Delimitation Commission has not been fair. It has, in as far as its mandate is concerned. They did give some explanations. Like one of the explanations is, we constituted a very small constituency, Gurez, because it remains cut off for 6 months. So we did not add up people from Bandipora to them. But what happens to Karna? Why did that also remains cut off? What happens to Rajouri Poonch? Why did they put it with Kashmir? The road is closed for 6 months. Per se, they did not do justice with this system. In fact, they damaged the trust which had developed, started developing between Delhi and people of Jammu and Kashmir after 2019. Because people had started believing that Delhi wants to be honest. They removed Article 370, 35A because that was in their constitution and they said that was a temporary. At least everything what rest of the people in this country get, we will also get the same treatment. The Delimitation Commission did a big disservice by not being fair and transparent. Again, I tell you, they are coming here on the 4th and 5th. Tell me, is this justice? Within 2 hours, can you meet this people of 10 districts? If you can, tell me if this is justice. I don't say they could have done it. It should not be only seen that you are fair. It should look also to be fair.
Where do you see the future of Jammu and Kashmir in 5 years from now?
If a chance is given to people to elect their own government, I see that this will be the most challenging and interesting part after 47, because youngsters will no longer look towards the neighbors. They will look towards Delhi for their aspirations, for getting what they have been promised now. The Kashmiri is saying they are not Mangtas, they are not adopted now. They are a part. They are a part, equal part.
So
Anybody.
that feeling is on the ground.
Yes, and we strengthen that feeling. We are equal. I, as the head of this party, we strengthen. We tell people you have the right to everything what is in Delhi, what is in Bombay, what is in Punjab. You have the same rights. Why not? Political questions will be debated in Supreme Court. Other questions, we will strive hard to see that people get justice. Corruption-free governance. A governance free of nepotism. That is what is Kashmir's main ill. Nepotism. In jobs, in contracts, in everything, in every sphere of life. God willing, if people give me a chance, I will invite you, not after 1 year, within 6 months, and tell you, please see, are we in the right direction or have you gone wrong somewhere?
Well, thank you for this comprehensive and enlightening session. Thank you so much for being with us on The New India.
Thank you very much.